All modern French presidents from Charles de Gaulle boast to Emmanuel Macron, the current president of the country of the Jinn and Angels as it is called to its fans, that France is the country of freedom, democracy, contemporary civilization, peaceful, cultural, civilizational coexistence and ethnic diversity, forgetting the crimes and massacres committed by the forehead in different crimes and massacres in different the countries that have been under the French occupation, whether in the Brown, Asia, the Americas, the New Caledonia, or other geographical regions in which the books of historians documented the extent of the hideous crimes through which France annihilated the peoples, tribes, and entire cultures. Throughout this period, France has used countries such as Senegal, Ivory Coast and Boys for many years as centers to ship slaves to Europe, as it exploited the resources of those countries, the ugliest exploitation, especially gold, diamond mines and gemstones, in addition to coal and iron. And the French forces committed countless massacres within the framework of the burned land strategy that they were following with the countries that reject the French presence, as General Kleber did with the Second Cairo Revolution, following the French campaign against Egypt, 1779 to 1801 AD, which left General Napoleon Bonaparte in his real name, Napoleone de Bonaparte, because he is Italian origin and who later became the Emperor of France, and who left Al-Marussa returning to Paris in the year 1800 AD, where Kleber bombed the Mokattam area with artillery and equipped his soldiers on everyone who tried to leave and fell thousands of martyrs of women, children and the elderly, the defenseless innocents, and tens of thousands were wounded by varying severity as a result of the brutal shelling, which lasted for a very long time. In addition to killing more than 10 million Algerians and burning entire tribes in the caves, as France did with the Zatash tribes, which was staying in Algeria for more than 132 years from 1830 to 1962 AD, as well as committing collective massacres against the ethnic Tutsi in Rwanda in 1994, as approximately 800,000 people were victims of those horrific massacres. Even after these countries gained their independence, the colonial France remained the will on it through its rulers who installed them on these countries, and who work to ensure that the wealth of their countries and their goods remain in serving the agendas of colonial French imperialist politics in Africa. These countries whose lands have become laboratories for various types of weapons and military programs the French announced and secret, such as its procedure for a group of nuclear experiences in the Algerian desert, which killed thousands of innocent people, in the context of its 36-year nuclear strategy, 1960 to 1996 AD, during which France conducted nearly 210 nuclear tests. Despite the evacuation of French colonialism from many countries on the Brown continent, there are 14 African countries binding through a colonial agreement to put nearly 85% of their foreign reserves in the French central bank under the control of the French Minister of Financial Supervision, and so far there are about 13 other countries paid the debts of that colonial period, and those who refuse from the heads of those countries that are assassinated or become victims of military coups embedded by French intelligence. While those who obey orders are rewarded and supported by France, and they live a loving and luxurious life while their people live in misery, and extreme poverty, this colonial system put approximately $500 billion in the French state treasury from its African colonies in the year after the other, as mentioned by the statement of the statement on the date July 3, 2015, in an article entitled 14 African Countries That Are Still Paying Colonial Taxes for France. France was not satisfied with just erasing memory, history, languages and cultures of these African countries and peoples, but rather imposed the French language on it as an official language in a direct or indirect way, as among the 31 French-speaking countries there are 27 African countries out of 54 taking the French language as a first official language, knowing that the largest French-speaking country is not France, but the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which reached 90 million people, according to the 2020 data. Likewise, I did the Libyan people when the French army participated alongside the NATO forces in 2011 in the process of destroying Libya on the pretext of bringing down the regime of Muammar Gaddafi, may God have mercy on him, which was disposed of with French orders issued by the French president who is currently imprisoned Nicolas Sarkozy and guaranteed to herself a permanent military presence in this African country, petroleum and gas through its military bases deployed there, and this is the reason for its opposition to any peaceful solution between the various Libyan parties, which will definitely be expelled all foreign forces present in Libya, including the French forces. This is what France considers an existential threat to its strategic interests in North Africa as a whole. France is responsible for the assassination of more than 130 African leaders, according to what was recently published by French media, that will not abandon its historical influence in the continent easily, in favor of the forces of other countries, competing with Russia, China, America and Turkey, and will do the impossible for the sustainability of its control in its back garden, which is the main reason for all the progress and prosperity of France, and the African countries, in return. Work to build strong and strategic alliances among them to get rid of the brutal French influence, which is one of the most important reasons for the continent's rich countries' backwardness with various natural, mineral and human resources for the sake under the progress, prosperity and global civilization.